Saint was taken aback by the presence of a peculiar man dressed in red. His attention briefly diverted from his conversation with his project supervisor. This morning had been eventful already. He had just finished speaking with the journalist, who wished to discuss his story when his supervisor had contacted him. Managing a dead battery, he had used Janet's phone to continue his conversation with the journalist. The call with the journalist held promise, possibly serving as the breakthrough he needed. He was even prepared to share his creative struggles and potentially collaborate on further developing the story. Yet the journalist's imminent arrival seemed to require a fully charged phone for smooth communication. The strange man's intense gaze unnerved Saint, raising questions about his identity and purpose. However, he managed to leave these thoughts behind and discussed project topics with his supervisor, who eventually chose one from the 3 ideas he had submitted. Upon exiting the building, Saint spotted the enigmatic man sitting beneath a mango tree. As their eyes met, Saint's unease grew, prompting him to retreat as the man in red rose and moved toward him. With uncertainty in his mind, Odeon hoped to eventually meet Saint and communicate his intentions. Understanding that attempting to explain himself in his current state might be futile, Odeon chose to follow Saint quietly, hoping the persistent presence might lead to a chance to converse. The idea of calling campus security crossed Saint's mind, but the lack of aggressive behavior from Odeon made him hesitate. The man had only expressed a desire to speak after all. Janet's arrival offered some comfort for Saint, especially considering she was meant to be around when the journalist called. Janet also felt a sense of trepidation around the mysterious man in red. Despite an initial connection she sensed, fear clouded her judgment and prevented her from understanding the situation clearly. Amid their confusion, Saint proposed seeking refuge in the faculty building, hoping to evade Odeon after completing his tasks. Rushing to the Faculty of Social Sciences, they entered the building, Saint glancing behind him as they walked. Exiting the building after about 15 minutes, Saint and Janet were met with Odeon still seated nearby, drawing attention from curious onlookers. Saint was surprised that campus security hadn't approached Odeon yet. Janet's observation of the man's resemblance to the monks in Saint's story struck a chord. This realization prompted Saint to question why someone resembling his fictional characters was following him on campus. His unfamiliarity with any monastery's existence in the area added to the perplexity. Despite the strange young man shadowing him, the persistence of the journalist topic from Janet puzzled him. The journalist will reach out when he arrives, since he has her number and his home address, Saint reasoned as he hurriedly led her toward the school's exit. Oblivious to the onlookers, including Linda and her friends under a nearby shade, they moved on. On the opposite side of the track road, Inspector Lucky and Rotimi made their way into the school through the first gate. They proceeded as guided by a student, aiming for the psychology department. The conspicuous man in red caught their attention, and Rotimi couldn't help but draw parallels between him and the monks from Saint's story. Despite Odeon's odd demeanor, their eagerness to meet Saint at the psychology department took precedence over his presence. Linda, Saint's ex, was taken aback by Saint's behavior, observing the unfolding scene from her spot beside the faculty building where she conversed with her friends. Among the numerous students who had noticed the young man in red, she had keenly noted Saint's reaction to his presence. Linda was well aware of Saint's significant transformation in recent weeks. This shift had coincided with his association with the beautiful girl named Janet. Initially, Linda had been puzzled by why someone as attractive as Janet would be involved with someone like Saint. She had assumed their relationship was trivial and anticipated its swift conclusion, if it was even a real relationship to begin with. However, Linda's prediction had proven false. Instead, the relationship seemed to deepen, surpassing her expectations. What was even more unexpected was how this romantic involvement had altered Saint into someone she now admired, a far cry from the person he used to be. His newfound confidence intrigued her, She found herself questioning whether this was the same saint who had once pestered her with his affection, a behavior she had despised. She realized her aversion wasn't solely due to his intense affection, but also his lack of appeal. Now, her sentiments had shifted, and she pondered the factors behind her changing perception of him. Linda had shared her intention to visit James, an online admirer in Abuja, with her friends, who, while supportive, expressed caution based on the potential dangers of meeting people from online interactions. Linda, however, remained resolute in her decision, arguing that not all such meetings led to negative outcomes. She saw this as an opportunity to explore a new place and believed James was a genuine and caring individual. Her friend's hesitancy didn't deter her, and the allure of visiting Abuja and meeting a wealthy suitor was enticing. Despite the risk, she believed the rewards outweighed the potential downsides. James had sent her flight details and provided funds to prepare for the trip, tempting her even further. The prospect was undeniable, and Linda knew she would eventually go through with it. Despite her focus on the upcoming journey, Linda found herself inexplicably concerned about Saint's recent actions. She questioned why his response to the unfamiliar young man was affecting her. She puzzled over why seemingly trivial matters were occupying her thoughts, causing her to feel less like Princess Linda and more like someone wrestling with unexpected internal conflicts. Awakening on the wrong side of the bed, Ekenne's attempt to uplift his spirits by reminiscing about meeting Sandra the previous day proved futile. Loneliness, confusion, and a sense of being lost still clung to him. Amid his personal turmoil, Bola's medical expenses weighed heavily on him. Leaving his friend behind was out of the question. Loyalty demanded he stand by Bola, regardless of the dubious circumstances he was involved in. Fighting off the weight of his emotions, Ekenne rose from the bed, a skill he'd mastered through his street experiences. He remembered that every difficult situation had a way out as long as he didn't succumb to despair. Disheveled from returning home late the previous night, Ekenne quickly proceeded to the bathroom. The prospect of seeing Sandra and checking on Bola at the hospital spurred him on. Post-shower, he readied himself for the day, taking a moment to retrieve his pants from the floor and gather the remaining 1,000 naira from the pockets. He just laid his mobile phone beside the receipt for yesterday's payments when a knock interrupted him. Suspicion tingled within him as he approached the door, wary of the unannounced visitor. The repeated knocks indicated urgency, and Ekenne knew he had to confront the situation. Without hesitating, he opened the door, only to be confronted by the intruder's hostile intent. He was swiftly overpowered, two men barging into his room. One of them delivered a punch to Ekenne's face, forcing him to stagger backward. Fending off their assault, Ekenne managed to create some distance, a momentary advantage he used to retaliate against one of his assailants. However, he was soon tackled to the ground, subdued by their combined efforts. As he struggled, Ekenne recognized a connection between these attackers and Bola's predicament. Conceding to the inevitable, he allowed them to lead him to his living room. Bloodstains on the floor hinted at Bola's fate, igniting anger and guilt within Ekenne. An elegant man in his mid-30s entered the room, exuding an air of affluence that sharply contrasted his dangerous intent. Dressed immaculately, he moved gracefully, an aura of authority surrounding him. His introduction was unnerving, hinting at his capacity for retribution. Engaging Ekenne with an intense gaze, the man expressed his anger at the situation, emphasizing his intolerance for betrayal and manipulation. The source of the conflict, it appeared, was money. Despite the tension, Ekenne couldn't reconcile the man's appearance with his malevolent reputation. The man revealed himself as James. It was evident Bola's actions had provoked this confrontation. Asking about Bola's whereabouts, James's inquiry prompted Ekenne's captors to exit the space into the inner rooms. Facing potential punishment, Ekenne seized the opportunity when one of the men prepared to strike him. The punch served as his cue to react. Using the element of surprise, Ekenne fought back, successfully freeing himself from their grip. Racing towards the door, he managed to evade pursuit, leaving behind the scene of the confrontation. His heart raced as he distanced himself from danger, his thoughts focused on reaching the hospital. The urgency to check on Bola and ascertain his condition fueled his determination, and he hailed a motorbike to begin his journey to the hospital.